evening. It is Wednesday, April 9th, Tuesday, April 9th, excuse me. I'm already a day ahead. We were just talking about Wednesday. So
Yes, we were.
this is the Finance Committee meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you being here. We have a short agenda for this evening's Finance Committee meeting. The first thing on the agenda is our legal invoices.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just,
Think of the word there for a moment, and I was just seeing, but the total for the February invoice is $16,462.31. I do want to call out that $6,000 of that goes towards Oprah. We had over 41 Oprah requests in the last couple of months, and a lot of them required some legal information and some legal advice before they were sent out. So that is why you'll see that information there. And we have some special defense that information that we're unfortunately having to spend some additional legal fees for that. So that will be on the agenda for this month here. Does anybody have any questions about any of that information?
I do.
Yes,
one
Mr.
question. I noticed that there are multiple times in the attorney invoice where we paid someone to write a summary of a lawsuit for the board. I don't know what the cases were specifically, but I don't remember ever being given any copies or summaries of these cases, or are we allowed to have the copies or summaries of the cases, or I don't know.
Well, we would not get written copies, but anything that is summarized or done, we get every month in our closed sessions with our legal advice, our legal meeting that we have in the closed session.
So, okay, I don't remember seeing it, but if we did, can somebody find out when we were told about?
which, I don't know which one you're referring to.
Which date and which, because there's several of them.
I had them all circled. And I probably left the wrong one home. Let me come back, I can't find it. I forgot to circle it.
I'm just looking for the word summary to see which one.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
see any summaries.
I did see one.
yes, and I can't remember, sorry, guys.
That's interesting. I was here, control find, and there's no word.
No word summary. I
No
didn't see
word,
one either.
okay.
No, let's see.
And maybe I was looking at something else.
It was last month?
No. No, I know I saw,
see some special.
I know I saw
specific
some.
Matters, the where it says review and respond to correspondence. But that's not to us, we don't get that.
Oh, here it is, under, well, I want to say which one. Draft status report summarizing matter to board, review correspondence from plaintiff's counsel. It's on the,
We did have a summary
Yeah.
last month.
we did, and I don't
Yeah.
remember it, okay. Thank you. I'll check this.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
special matter.
Yes.
Oh, now, okay, now I remember what Rita said, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions about the legal invoice? Okay. The next thing up on the agenda is the bill list. And the bill list is here, standard stuff, salaries, and nothing jumped out at me when I was looking at most of this. This is salaries. We probably will get an update between now and next Wednesday for other bills that'll come in. So please be on the lookout for that. So, and ask your questions via email, so we can have that information as we need it, but most of this is just salaries.
Yeah. I didn't see anything either.
There's nothing jumping out at me. But that's standard for this time of the year. So anybody else have anything else they want to do? It's a pretty short meeting.
Well,
Mrs. Skirby,
yeah, I want to discuss the bill list a little bit and just say again, a thank you to Ms. Allen for the way it's presented to us. Prior to myself being the board president, it was not presented this way. We have now a color-coded version that shows what is paid prior to a board meeting with, which I think you see on here, there's only a couple. JCP&L seems to be the biggest ones, and Comcast. Sometimes there are some payroll deductions that we have to do that are by court orders. But the majority of our bill list is not paid until after the Board of Education meeting. I know that is something that I discovered back when I first became a board member. I think within the first month of being the board president, that all of our, about 90% of our bills were being paid prior to board approval. We put this through finance, we put this procedure in place, which I think has worked out very good for the last 2 years under Miss Allen as our BA. And I hope that it remains this way. And I do hope that, it remains that the board president always signs the checks. Because that was something that was handing over an electronic signature, not having control over that signature, really, you could see where it lent itself to the board not knowing what they were approving, or when things were being paid early, things were being paid wrong sometimes, you couldn't go back because the check had already cleared the bank. So I think the processes that we as a board have put in place, where the board president hand signs all checks, has been a great process. And I just hope that it continues going forward.
I mean, that should be a requirement. I mean, that should be something that has to be done. Especially now with, fraud is rampant. So, electronic signatures are easy to steal. It's like anything else. So, I think it really, to protect the school board, it should be something that is necessary.
Yeah, payroll,
Payroll is an electronic signature.
Yeah, payroll is hard, 'cause it's-
But everything, prior to Ms. Kirby being the president, it was my understanding that everything was electronic, so the person's
Right.
signature
Right.
is just provided and they
Right.
just press print. Now we have this wonderful procedure that if we can't wait for the board approval, everything is listed. Ms. Allen reaches out to me as the superintendent, I look through it, I write approved, I then reach out to the president, the vice president, and the chair of finance. And unless everybody writes approval, Ms. Kirby will not come and sign.
that's right.
So it's really a beyond checks and balances.
Yeah, right.
If, moving forward, I know in the past, the other presidents just had an electronic signature. It's my understanding. Ms. Allen, as the Assistant Business Administrator, you would agree that was true, correct?
So there's no requirement for
No.
a physical
But
signature.
I think that, from this committee and as the chair of this committee, I encourage Ms. Ellen to continue that process, because it is a process that the board administration uses, right? You can't policy and procedure to death everything.
Right.
But the procedure previous to this current procedure lend itself to a lot of error and a lot of missed stuff and invoices that we were told we weren't being paid late fees and we were being late
Right.
fees and things like that. I think the process that we put together and my predecessor, Ms. Bierman, was instrumental in making sure that that process happened and that there were checks and balances put into place. I think that really, lent itself. And since I'm not, I will not be in this position, next month, there will be other people in this position. I encourage that whoever does step into this role does take that process and continue and encourage you to continue that process, because the process is yours. You own that process, right? So as the BA, that is your process for that. We just encouraged you that we do something new with it. And I think that you should continue that process moving forward and speak to the fact that we did discover bills that were paid before they were brought to the Board of Ed, checks that had dates on them that were before they were approved legally by the board.
No one knew
And we let our attorney know what was happening, and he advised us as to what was the best thing to do. So it's one of the things that I think this committee has done, and I will not take credit for it. I believe it, it should come from the collaboration that happened with the board member previous to me and yourself as the new BA, and then Ms. Skirby discovering this stuff, which is why you have checks and balances, right? You have a president, a vice president, you have a finance chair.
That's
I sign the bill statement every month, I, take care of all that. And, Ms. Kirby signs the checks, that's her role. If she were to become unable to do that role, then it would have been this board, that kind of stuff. So, I think we've done a lot of really good things in that respect. Does anybody have any questions on the bill list, anything else? No. Mr. Haynes, did you have any other questions?
No, fine.
So we're there. I just want to say, that we have the vote coming up next week. This is the finance committee. I just encourage people to support what we're asking for this district. The base budget is already approved. That's already done. It's approved. There is zero tax impact from the base budget. It is the additional question that we are asking where there will be approximately a $24 increase in your tax levy for the year. That is what we're asking for, and that's based off of your home valuation through your taxes of about 350,000.
339,000.
39,000, thank you. 339,000. So that's $2 a month. That is less than a latte at Starbucks. It's, less than a pack of gum. It's less than a gallon of gas in your car. So I encourage people to go out and support what we need for the students, and for our district to continue to provide the amazing things that we do, provide, and I had it up here, but it Facebook disappeared. Sometimes it never changes my feed, and when I don't want it to change my feed, it changes my feed. But we have some, some really important things that are there that the state doesn't feel is is above adequacy for us, and we need to make sure that we continue what we feel is adequate for our students and our staff and the great work that we continue to do and that we said in curriculum that we do here. We do a lot, and I do encourage everyone to go out and do that. It has been my honor to fill in as the chair of this committee for the last, I don't even know, when did Karen leave? Last 6 months or so, 7 months, I can't remember. It feels like forever, but I know it hasn't been forever. I've been on this committee since I've been a member of the Board of Education, and I have been privileged to, be part of the collaboration and the discussion and the challenges and all of that. And, but I do appreciate the last couple of months, the cooperation and the ability to have conversation, including me in the things that need to be included and having the discussions at the table. And I appreciate everybody's input and everybody's stuff here. So I just want to say thank you to the board and to the president for entrusting me with this position, as well as the rest of the board for helping us get through the crazy things that we get through. So unless anybody has any other agenda items, Ms.
I
Skirby.
do, yes. So it came to my attention today that the Assembly introduced a bill April 4th, 2024, Assembly number 4161, which is to appropriate $71.4 million to school districts through a budget grant program for school districts that had their aid reduced for S2. There's also another bill, I don't have it up in front of me, that was also introduced around the same time that would allow districts to hold off on presenting their budgets until these bills and grant programs go through.
Remind the public we are not S2.
We were, so what S2 did was, S2 said, we have, you've been overfunded, the state has been overfunding you, and S2 over a course of several years rolled back some of that funding. So districts did face cuts for their funding that they were overfunded. Monroe has never been overfunded, we've never been properly funded.
Right.
So some of those districts, we saw up at the Budget and Appropriations meeting, making the claim to the Senate Appropriations Budget Committee that they should be allowed to go over their cap, their 2% tax levy cap, without having to go out to their voters. They were asking to do that because it's not fair that they had their funding cut and they cannot stay under the 2% cap. The 2% cap has been across New Jersey is an issue, whether you had your funding cut or you didn't have your funding cut. We didn't have our funding cut, but we can't maintain our programs under the 2% tax cap levy. I was very upset this afternoon when I read this. I reached out to Senator Greenstein's office to voice my concern with this bill. if there's $71.4 million to give to school districts, we want 2.7.
Right. Or
I
more.
mean, it almost, and I said this to the staff person that I spoke to, it's almost like a shell game.
Mhm.
We gave you too much over here, so we're gonna take it away and put it into this fund, and we're gonna give it right back to you.
Mhm.
But what about Monroe?
Right.
It-
Short it again.
It's absurd. If the formula was incorrectly calculated to give you aid, and you've been receiving aid for decades that you shouldn't have gotten, and we're rolling it back and it's being taken away from your district, and you can't maintain what your programs are without going over the 2% cap, then go out to your voters. That's what we're
Yeah.
forced to do.
Forced to do it, right?
I mean, it's just to sit there and say, we need more money. You have to give us back the aid you took away,
Mhm.
because we can't maintain our budget under the 2% cap. Well, what about Monroe?
Mhm.
And my question to the staffer was, I want an answer from our senator who is supposed to represent us here in Monroe. What is her feeling on this? Is she supporting it? Because quite honestly, if she's supporting that, it's not fair that the grant program is only for districts
That's
that
true.
were affected by S2. How about any district that can't maintain their budget under the 2% cap can apply for the grant program? Every single time there's money out there for a grant program, full day
Can't
kindergarten,
apply, 'cause now it's pre-K, you can't apply to pre-K because we don't have kindergarten.
Right.
over 10% on free and reduced lunch. $71.4 million grant program, you can't apply, Monroe, because you didn't have your funding cut.
Yeah.
I mean,
We were
And now
never
pre-K,
funded.
now there's grant for pre-K that we
Right.
cannot apply because we don't have kindergarten.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, it is so frustrating, and, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people in the community, and I've been urging everybody to go on our website and send letters and fill out our advocacy form and really contact
Mhm.
Senator Greenstein's office and get involved, because something needs to change. This is.
Have you ever had the opportunity to speak? I've left messages. I've never spoke to, except an aide. I never had an opportunity to even speak to her. Did
No,
you
well,
ever
it
have
was
an
funny, when I
opportunity?
said to the gentleman that I spoke to, I said, hi, it's Chrissy Skirby again. I know we've talked for many times, and you told me that Senator Greenstein would either get back to me or you would call me back, and nobody has called back, so I'm
Right.
calling again, because now there's yet another bill that is very troubling to our school district, and I'm not saying that these districts should not be getting aid. What I'm saying is, it's not fair to Monroe Township and to Monroe Township residents to have to increase their taxes when a district right next door to us, South Brunswick, gets more aid than us, got their aid cut, and now, because they don't want to go out and ask their taxpayers for a slight increase to stay under the cap, that the state's just going to give them.
They're gonna apply for the grants and they'll get the grants.
Yeah, and they'll bail them out.
Like,
right?
I'm not saying the money shouldn't be given to the districts, but let all of the districts that can't stay under the 2% cap apply for the grant. It's just, it's lunacy. It really is the way, and to not have to be, to not put in your budget yet. We had a drop dead date that we had to send it to the county.
No, then they moved it up on us because
Right.
they wanted it earlier. And we accommodated, because
Right.
we were able to do it, to
Right.
get it earlier so that all of the mailing ballots could be mailed out
Well, we
earlier.
had to move the meeting up, right?
Like 3 weeks? 2 weeks, whatever it was?
A week.
Oh, a week.
Yeah, a
right.
week, right.
So, I mean, these are the bills out there. I'm very upset that we're not having the Legislative Action Committee, meeting this week. Because these are the bills that we need to see in these committees, and we need to know they're coming up, and we need to, as a board, react to it. And we need to get our board and our public to go out and make phone calls and to contact our representatives, because something like this, we should be included in. And I did send a message, to the board attorney today, because I know he had reached out to her office as well
Mhm.
previously, and I asked for, any advice for the Board of Education on how to possibly, ask for maybe an amendment or a change, or how could we contact the legislator to see if there could be some type of a change to this grant program, because it's really, it's unjust to districts like Monroe, and it's unjust to our to our taxpayers that, it's our tax money,
Right.
that $71.4 million is our tax money.
Right, we all pay
Eagle
tax.
become assembly bill?
Assembly bill, yep, number 4161.
What about a formal letter from the board that we could actually put on our website and to show the public that, yes, we are doing this, this is real, we are, taking action on this? A formal letter that everyone can see, a copy of it that we send to, the Screenstein's office.
That would have to be.
We do have the letter on the board that, on our website for
Right.
everybody to send to.
Right,
you
but
know,
I'm saying, a letter from the board, that, we've sent copies of it, so it's not just, oh, we didn't get the letter. At least this way we put them on notice that people know that a letter was sent in, so at least we can maybe get a response.
I would put return receipt requested on it too. Did you also
As a,
read or
we
accept them?
can't do anything.
Yeah, we can't.
Right,
This would have to be brought up as in a
Right,
motion
gotcha.
to the full board. And that, it took months to get the other one
Yeah.
done, so I don't know if it would behoove us.
Did you
But as
guys,
individual
Yeah,
citizens,
we
we
could do it,
certainly
right.
can send a
did
letter
you
to it.
see in school board notes where they were going to put some money aside for religious schools, charter, magnets, and all the school districts? They're gonna set aside millions for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? This now too?
Others.
Yeah.
And we have to bear the.
Exactly. We're bearing the expense. I don't know how far it went. I don't know if it went through, I don't think it did. It was something somebody brought up. And I thought I saw Senator Gopal's name on that list with all those schools. So apparently maybe the, religious schools or something are, big in his area. But when I saw that, I said, again, they're gonna take money and give it to the charter schools and they want it to be a charter school. You don't get the money, okay, fine. But the sending districts pay to send that child, they transport them. And also, if they want to play sports, you got to transport them back because they have the legal right to come back to your district and play sports and be part of things. So I don't understand how much burden they're going to be putting on a district like Monroe. That's another one. That's two things, two strikes.
Right.
Yeah,
So let's wait for the hammer to come down for the third. And then maybe we need to charge the Trenton office with, I don't know what. But
well, and that's something I've been out, speaking to a lot of people in the community that have questions about the budget and how we got here and why are we, why do we need to raise the 2%, go over the 2% cap? And people don't realize what a school district has to pay for out of their operating budget. Just like you said, tuition to charter schools and magnet schools. We had, I think it was $1 million increase in our transportation this year for out of district, right, students that we send out of district, $1 million. So we were short to stay under the cap by 2.7 million. Well, 1 million was increased right there in,
That is a requirement.
we were anticipating 1.5 million in aid, we got 1 million, so right there is 1.5.
Of the 2.7.
Of the 2.7, so, when the community understands and really gets where, we are and how we got here, it's important. A lot of our residents have no idea, how much we pay out in tuition that we have to out for, our special education students and the tuition costs. It all comes out of our operating budget, and those are costs that are non-negotiable. Those are the costs that we have to pay, and those went up as well, right? I mean, when you don't have the revenue coming in and you're not getting the aid and your costs for the things that the state is mandating you do are rising, it's where we fall short. And, we giving the money now giving more money to the charter schools and giving them aid, and we're still left behind we're not getting it. It's unfortunate.
And they're giving them money, but we're still transporting their children to St. Joe's and what other Catholic schools these, parents agree to go to, unless the parent, my sister-in-law in South Brunswick, sent her kids to Rutgers Prep. So of course I know that she drove them, and then she got reimbursed for driving the kids there. But I mean, those are the schools that thing, and I think it was in the school board notes said, they're talking about it, didn't go through. but there was a lot of resistance for it.
And you brought up a great thing that I've been explaining to parents too, because that's a big cost that we have, I forget what it's called in lieu,
Aid in lieu. Yes.
that we have to return back the busing cost money for
Right.
the parents that don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have no problem with the state, because that's state mandated, that's a state law that we
Right.
have to give that back. But it shouldn't come out of our operating budget. If the state wants to give
Mhm.
that back to the parents, it should come out of the state education money.
Mhm.
The state should be sending that back. All of these costs that come out of our operating budget leaves us in the lurch at the end.
It's crippling.
It is
We
crippling.
call that an unfunded mandate.
Yes.
It's
There
an
you go.
unfunded mandate from the state, and it happens all the time.
And what I hear from a lot of residents are, they're frustrated with it, right? And it's not a frustration so much with the board or the administration or what we're doing here. It's just a frustration of, why aren't we getting this money? We keep hearing about it, but, and some of the comments that I've heard is, well, you know what, until the state gives us anything else, then, we have to stop. And, I mean, it's, again, I think though, there's a lot of support in the community for education. There's a lot of people that have been on social media and they have been supporting it and saying that, they value the programs and it's significant. There's a significant amount of things that are covered in that $2.7 million. It's not just busing.
No.
A lot of people have said to me, how could busing cost $2.7 million? Why is it just busing? It's not just busing. We have, it's the courtesy busing to and from school. It's the after-school busing. It's the busing for our sports teams. It's our clubs, the stipends for the advisors, the supplies, equipment for our athletes, uniforms. And then there's various staff positions. There's the autism teacher, an autism paraprofessional, a business teacher for computer science and robotics,
High school.
an ESL teacher, an ESL paraprofessional, another security guard, the roof project at Mill Lake, and the paving project for special services. So it is a lot more than just courtesy busing. And I think that's important for, the public to know that this $2.7 million that we're over the cap is a significant list of items. And to Katie's point too, the budget that the board approved is the budget. No matter what happens, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can't sit down and redo the budget this year.
No,
It's
That is set in stone, and there's no going back and saying, let's make changes to the budget. It's
Filed.
approved. That budget that we approved, it had no tax increase to the public.
Zero.
That budget has a zero tax increase. The increase of the $24 for average assessed home of $330,000 is the $24. That's the tax increase. The
Right.
regular budget does not have a tax increase. It was put out there that there was a tax increase for the regular budget and a tax increase for this.
This information was
And
shared.
they were not being honest with the public that it was really probably going to be $48 on an average assessed home, and that is incorrect. So there is no tax increase for the regular budget,
For the base budget.
for the base budget.
Can I just wanted to say something. As a former board member too, who never got the right amount of money, one of the few districts like here, I think our saying was state mandate, state doesn't pay. And that's what we used to say all the time, because state mandated years ago that you had, I don't know if you guys were around, you might have been around, I'm sorry, I don't mean that you're older, but I was around. I was around then, when state mandated, and I can remember either Spanish in 3rd and 4th grade, and then you had everything all revved up, you had Spanish teachers, and bing, bang, boom, the year later, the state said, oh, we're not making it mandatory anymore. Do you remember that? And then you had all these people lined up, you had everybody you were paying, and the program was not mandated, and you didn't have to do it. Did the state pay you back for all what you did? No. So that was my saying, and our saying was state mandates, state doesn't pay.
Right.
So that should be around everything. Yeah, that's what happens.
So we are at time, it is 7:30.
Okay.
Great discussion. glad we used the time to have this discussion. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Again, I just want to say thank you to this committee
Thank you.
for your support.
Thank you,
for your
too.
information, For everything.
How will you fill your time?
I will, trust me, I will fill my time. I have other things that I have been asked to do, and
It won't be half as much fun though.
yes, I
You're
still
still
work
working.
full-time, yes, and I have 4 adult children who live with
So
me, and
you-
I have a special needs child that will be with me the rest of my life, so, my life will be full.
Yep.
So thank you, for that. I will miss this committee as much as maybe not as much as the curriculum committee, because I do. I will miss the curriculum committee. It was definitely a passion for me, but I will miss chairing this committee and working with all of you. This has been, these committees is where the work is done. And this is where, we have the collaboration and the conversation, so I do appreciate everybody, and, thank you again for the finance committee.
Thank you for taking it over and doing a good job.
Thank you, Gail, I appreciate your compliment, thank you.